Welcome, everybody. Sorry about that. The mayor is going to convene the public hearing in just a couple of minutes now, so we're just going to go over a couple of items of the protocol just so everybody understands how the evening will run today. I think most of you received a handout when you came into the room from Karen explaining, and I'll just go over them as well. By the way, I'm Linda Tynan, I'm the Chief Administrative Officer here at the District of Summerland. So for those of you that were here this afternoon, it'll be the same format. Each speaker will be given 5 minutes. The 5 minutes will be timed and strictly enforced. There's a light system here. When you first come up, it'll be green. After 4 minutes, it will turn to yellow. And then at the end of that minute, it'll go red, and you need to talk, you need to stop right away and be consistent for everybody. It's one, sorry about this, it's one time per.
Can you come over here? Yeah, if I can do go to the mic.
It's one. Sorry.
Okay.
Lights off.
Well, we'll get this mic thing sorted out before we get started. So right now there's about, I think, 30 people signed up on the speakers list. This afternoon we got through about 45 people. Depending how long the speeches are, we may or may not get through everybody today. If we don't get through everybody, this session will be adjourned at 9:30 tonight. If we don't get through everybody, we will start again at 6:30 tomorrow night. And whoever's on the list will be the first speaker. So, right now it looks like we've only got enough names that everybody will get through. You'll see on the board here, these will be a rotating names. As you see your name coming up, the speaker will always be the top name there. And then, so if you see your name, just go to the aisleway there and be ready so that we can keep it moving for that. And lastly, this afternoon's group of people that were here were amazing as far as really respectful behavior. We need to remember that there's people that are pro and supporting, and there's people that are against the application, and everybody needs to be able to feel comfortable making their speeches. So we're going to be very adamant that there's no applause or cheering or booing at all. And the mayor will be enforcing that very much just to make sure it stays, again, consistent. So with that, during the session, the mayor may call a short recess for about 2 or 3 minutes, and we encourage you just to relatively stay put, where they just may take a short break, but other than that, we'll just go for the next 3 hours. 3 hours. 3 hours. Any questions before we get started?
Can I safely turn
I
this
don't
thing
know.
on?
I'm going to find this.
1, 2. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good evening, everybody. I'll just call this to order. This is a reconvening of our public hearing, but I will read the public hearing statement again. This public hearing is being held pursuant to Section 465 of the Local Government Act. During this public hearing, anyone who believes that his or her interest is affected by the proposed zoning bylaw amendment will be given a reasonable opportunity to be heard or to present written submissions respecting matters contained in the bylaw that are subject of this hearing. All information, correspondence, petitions, or reports that have been received concerning the subject bylaw have been made available to the public. Council may ask questions of staff and public, but once the public hearing is over, no new information can be received. Council debate will take place when the bylaw is considered after the conclusion of the public hearing. At that time, any questions of staff will be for clarification purposes only. I will be inviting the public to come forward and present their comments. Speakers are asked to state their name and address for the record. Speakers must limit their remarks to 5 minutes and should include all of the relevant information in their presentation. Just like to add that you're only allowed to speak once. There will not be an opportunity to speak a second time. And comments are to be directed to the application and be respectful of council staff and other members of the public. So, thank you. I now ask the Director of Public Services and Development Services to introduce the bylaws under consideration. Pardon me? No mic?
Sorry, Mr. Mayor. Very briefly, the subject application is an OCP amendment and rezoning application for the property on Banks Crescent. The application has been through the first session of the public hearing, and we're now in the second session of the public hearing. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Strachan. We'll move on with our list of speakers. I think Justin Glenn is the first one up, and then Murray Rooney.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Council. My name is Justin Glenn. I reside at 1826 Barclay Street, Vancouver. I lived in Squamish from 1992 to 2002. Being from a small town, I can understand the fear the residents may have of standing up here. It can be quite intimidating and to voice their support. I just wanted to take this time to point out that we have 1,210 signed letters of support for this project. Like I said, I lived in Squamish, and back then it was a small town, a logging town. It was known as a place to stop by for McDonald's on the way to Whistler. Today it's a thriving town with a healthy mix of locally owned shops and some big business, all in an environmentally sensitive area. It still has retained its small town values and its charm. How did they get there? How did they achieve that balance to go from a logging town to a top destination spot? At some point, the community had to open their mind to growth, to development, to change. The best way to predict the future is to create the future yourself. I believe the fish hatchery is at a very low risk, and I know where large priorities lie, and they're in the right place. I believe they've done their due diligence more than enough for the fish hatchery. I appreciate the high standards that Summerland has for its new developments. I believe that this proposed project will exceed those standards. Thank you.
Mayor, councillors, staff, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Murray Rooney. I reside at 12018 Gallagher Street, and my background is I worked in regional economic and business development for more than 35 years in the public sector. I have a degree in business administration, and my expertise in that field was in economics. Previous speakers have clearly defined the potential risks that this project brings to bear. And consultants working for and paid by the developer have defined the likelihood of these risks as low, but have not quantified the likelihood of those risks being realized. Is it 1%? Is it 10%? Is it 20% of that happening in my lifetime or my children's lifetime? And I say that they haven't done that because they can't, and they won't because they don't want to be liable for it. There are too many variables for them to give an accurate estimate of the actual likelihood of any of these potential problems coming to light. By their very nature, consultants are mercenaries. They were hired by the developer who pays their costs, and their future work is very much dependent upon pleasing the people that pay for them. That's not the citizens of Summerland. The optics would lead questioning minds to question the partiality, the impartiality of such consultants. Past experience has shown that engineers and other consultants can be wrong. In Summerland, we were told during the Summerland Hills development that there was more than adequate groundwater to feed the development out there, which I believe was even larger than this development. And during a drought, the aquifer was pumped out And as a result of that, if I'm not mistaken, Summerland taxpayers were on the hook for pumping water to the residents of Falder who depended upon that very aquifer. What I would really like to speak about is are two very boring topics. One is economics, and the other one is contracting. The value of the residential property is much greater if it's closer to the lake. And for a business venture, it makes great sense that they want to be in a place where they can maximize their return on their investment. The developers indicate that this is the only location that has 14 acres. And I would question how much of the 14 acres will actually be developed. And because they're talking about doing it in phases anyway, would it be possible to build phases in different locations where there is unutilized or underutilized land and property in Summerland? And those locations could be built upon in phases without risk to the residents of Summerland. Economics. What will the workers be paid that actually are going to be in place, and how many will there be? If they're minimum wage employees or slightly above minimum wage employees, none of them will be able to live in this development, and it will add to the burden of inadequate and unavailable housing for the citizens of Summerland. I took a look at one of the banking sites, and if you're able to scramble together $50,000 in a down payment, and if you need to have a $450,000 mortgage, the banks, who are as risk adverse as developers, indicate that you need to have in excess of $100,000 a year in income, though it isn't going to be the workers. So, in terms of contract management, the contractor, the developer wants to cap his liability. I suggest that there needs to be a bond put in place that would allow the replacement of the hatchery and payment to those who are affected. And that could run into millions. Now, they aren't going to like that, but this is called externalities. And it's the responsibility of the Summerland Council to ensure that affected parties are considered and that they are paid if there is in fact damages. And businesses are often hire another set of mercenaries, which is lawyers. And then they use the very facts that we're talking about to say that it's uncertain as to whether or not it was they who committed the fault in the first place. Thank you.
My name is Rick Simpson. I live at 138 Pandozzi Street in Kelowna. Your Worship, Mayor Waterman, District of Summerland councillors, staff, consultants, proponents, fellow anglers, if there are any in the room, ladies and gentlemen, and our young people. Since 2003, I've been the BCWF Region 8, that's Okanagan, Similkameen, Fisheries Committee Chair, or Co-Chair. And I can tell you it's a challenging position for the past 15 years. I can tell you that for a fact. BCWF Region 8, if you remember from previous speakers, consists of 14 clubs and roughly 4,000 to 5,000 members and many community partners. I speak for those people that demonstrably are interested in and concerned and passionate about fish stuff. My current bosses are Dave Carlton, President of the BCWF Region 8, and also President of the Summerland Sportsmen's Association. My second boss is my partner, Gail Russell, of 15 years, some of whose people are Silk's head of the lake. Prior to speaking here tonight, I'd sent my remarks to Jeremy Deniger, is that correct, Jeremy? So that those people that know me know that I don't believe in preemptive strikes, ambushes, or surprises. So what I'm about to go over, you've all been given before I got here. My first point is this: the provincial municipal elections are in October of 2018. The mayor and council may or may not return to form the new Summerland mayor and council. Proceeding in view of the headwinds that I'm hearing about may or may not be prudent, and I would suggest that perhaps this issue, the divisiveness that I've seen here tonight, would be best handled by a referendum. But I'm not a politician, that's for you folks to decide. Secondly, a sizable development on top of the aquifer supplying the Summerland hatchery, putting at risk the water quality and quantity of this contributing community asset since 1928 doesn't seem to make much sense to me. The cessation of the educational programs offered, if you destroy it, that in 2017 saw 25,000 people visit, including several thousand from foreign locations, and since the program inception, an estimated 1.5 million visitors. I would hate to see Kyle and the other people at the hatchery let that level of support loose on you with letters and emails and texts and so on and so forth. That represents an awful lot of community support. Many of our sons and daughters and grandchildren caught their first fish as a result of the Summerland hatchery's stocking efforts, or visited it for their school tours. Terminating the technical and biological work from people centered at the Summerland hatchery that support local groups also seems foolhardy. Disrupting the future headquartering of a pioneering first, an Okanagan-based learn-to-fish crew to support our community initiatives also seems foolhardy. Also disregarding and downplaying the economic benefits from this area, which is 42 to 45 million. In closing, how long have I got, please? 15 seconds. In closing, my partner Gail has 10 grandchildren and 2 great-grandchildren. What will you answer when they ask Nan, why? Why did these people do that? I hope you have a credible answer for them and generations that follow. Thank you for listening.
Mr. Townsend here. Okay, we'll move on to Stronkers.
Dear Mayor and Council, my name is Jos Stronkers, Faircrest Street, Summerland. I would like to briefly discuss 2 issues that have been bothering me for some time. First of all, the petition. No new signatures today, although our petition has now quietly grown to 3,200 signatures. I was deeply involved in the organization of our petition, and you need to know that it was done with the highest level of integrity and honesty. When you threatened to not honor our online petition, there were some people that signed again on our paper petition. But other than that, everything else has been straightforward. no tricks. Therefore, I find it deeply offensive that the developer actually hired a company with the objective to discredit our petition. That they even went so far as to track down addresses on our petition and infringed on people's privacy to persuade them to support the development is unbelievable. These are deplorable, dirty business tactics. Excuse my language. Were they desperate? They should have spent their time focusing on resolving the important technical issues at hand. Do we want a business partner like that in Summerland? Capable of doing anything to get their way? I don't, and I trust you, Mayor and Council, you don't. This to me was another example of what they are prepared to do. Also, they often changed their plans and promises vis-à-vis the hatchery without clarity. Promises. Even today, the exact plans are unclear to us. They divided the community of Summerland, often spreading, as we know now, deceiving information through their brochures and newspaper ads. And it was proven. They used the many good public arguments to devise new methods to convince less informed Summerland residents. If we have over 2,600 signatures from Summerlanders, how can they quote in the newspaper that 90% of residents are in favor of this development without names or specifics? This afternoon, I heard a handful of people speak in favor. Most were of Lark, working for Lark. If I were them, I could not look myself in the mirror with a clear conscience. Secondly, I have to turn my page and I'm a little bit nervous.
Speak into the mic, we can't hear you very well.
Oh, that's not good. The second issue is the way we seem to plan and shape the future of our town. Ironically, 2 days ago I learned that tomorrow night there will be an information session about co-housing, Eco Village. Last week there was a full house meeting about sustainable housing. A full house meeting, sustainable housing. That is the sort of development we need to improve the vibrancy of our downtown core and facilitate our community's health and well-being. Why don't we jump on that concept, as well as actively pursue opportunities to build closer to downtown in line with our excellent community plans, without risks? Why did we argue for almost 2 years whether we should destroy this agricultural valley in Lower Town, an active wildlife area with a unique natural spring that was given to us for free? This spring also happens to be the artery of our hatchery. We should actively lure the developers to build what we need, rather than the developers luring us to build what they want. They leave, we Summerlanders stay. Thank you.
I'd ask the audience to please respond the way we were asked to not clap, etc. Thank you.
Hi folks, this is Don Hudgen, 14008 Nesbitt Avenue, which is nowhere near Banks Crescent. You folks have a big job here to sort this out. So I'd like to start out here with what I did a couple of weeks ago. I went to the movies down in Penticton, and I saw the movie about Churchill in the Second World War. And in one speech, he changed the minds of the entire Parliament in England, and probably half of the taxpayers in the country. So I would like, I see there's only a few of us left, but I would sure like a Churchill to come out of the audience here tonight. Anyway, I think that you folks have to really call this developer into question as far as credibility goes. It's my understanding, and over a year ago, they were given an instruction that if they were going to affect the fish hatchery water in any way, that the project was a no-go. Now, I was away for a month or so, and I came back just the other day to turn on the TV and see your last council meeting, and you were still discussing water at the fish hatchery. And you're actually questioning the fish hatchery manager he had a hard time defending himself. It's not the fish hatchery's responsibility to defend their water. It's the developer's responsibility to make sure that that water doesn't get affected. Now, Lark has had 1 year, and there's really nothing been done. There's a few engineering opinions, and that's exactly what they are, because engineers, like we've all worked with enough engineers through our life, to know that engineers need information before they can come out with any kind of a definitive fact. And they don't have that information. That thing should have been drilled off. There should have been piezometers and a whole year's through all 4 seasons to see what happens to the water up there. And to my knowledge, that wasn't done. I would have thought the developer would have wanted that just for his own information. But maybe that other gentleman's right. Maybe they don't want to know. You know, I'm on the Advisory Planning Commission, and probably half of us went down there and had a look at that property because it's all private. So Ian made arrangements for us to go down, and we walked the whole thing from the vineyard right down. And there's a few questions, like a whole bunch of red flags come up to most of us. So then we went down to fish hatchery to get them to detail how their process works there. So they came up and showed us theirs. And gosh, you know, we came home from there just scratching our head, you know, is this really what we want to do down here? I think these guys are sidestepping a few issues. And imagine if they're doing it now, what's it going to be like over a few years of construction and marketing? They could, you know, they're starting to throw a few sidesteps in here. It can get pretty serious in a few years. This is not a 10-year project. This is a generation project that we're doing. It's going to be there for a long, long time. Let's get it right. Thanks.
Okay, I've been a resident here for 13 years, and I'm 11 years away from needing a place like this. And I'm not part of Lark. I don't know anyone from Lark. This is strictly because I'm a long-term resident now for Summerland and probably will be here for the rest of my life. My own mother needs a place like this now, but is on a wait list that is several years long. The first thing I hear is that it's in the middle of nowhere. Really, no way to access anything. Taxis don't exist. Eckert Senior Service now has a car in town that does point-to-point within town, as well as the other town stuff as well. There's shuttle buses. Right now, Summerland seniors, they go from Seniors Village using shuttle buses and taxis. They're not walking downtown. Some do. But guess what? There are 8 places that are in the downtown core that you can choose to live in. If you don't want your loved ones to live in the middle of nowhere, then don't put them there. Or let them live with you and you take care of them. We're from the culture where what we do is we put people in a home and let them deal with it. So you want everything self-sufficient. Well, if it's in the middle of nowhere, then let them live with you and you take care of them. Anyway, this is a choice that people will have. People that don't want to be in the downtown core, who don't want to hear Action Fest when it's going on. I personally would rather live in a ravine. I lived in a ravine for 33 years. It was absolutely wonderful. When blizzards and windstorms and tornadoes were hitting our neighbors, we were fine. We were safe from the elements. It was great. I've gone way off of this now. As far as the petition, it's only as good as its signatures. And if some are doubled or don't live here, then they can't count. It's that simple. And that's all that came out of that study. I see people saying that they know what the geographic area is like and that that won't work. Just because someone states an opinion saying it's not good doesn't mean that it's right. You guys have people that are in charge of doing the testing and doing the research that's been done. Trust in that. And yes, I can hear everybody saying those little things under your breath. Every single one of you, I can hear. Be respectful. As for the fires that people say that can move up a ravine very fast, as mentioned earlier today, that can happen anywhere. Entire towns have been evacuated just this past summer, and it was done in a short amount of time with only one highway open, going north. And it included hundreds of vulnerable persons. And no area is exempt from fire, so that's a concern anywhere, not just in one area. Then there's those that say they want Solly Road to be maintained and have complained about the danger in the winter. Well, it'll be widened and rebuilt, and other stuff will be reconfigured to make more routes, and those routes will now become priority in the winter. So it'll be the first ones maintained because now it's a priority road. This project not only takes care of housing issues for the seniors, but those homes that come empty and they move into ICASA, more housing will be available in the rental and purchasing markets for all ages. Also, this would bring a lot of jobs, not only from the project itself during construction. I personally would like to see a clause from council that says local construction companies and other local trades will be used during the building phases. But also this will provide long-term jobs for staffing as well. And with that comes a trickle-down effect, the trickle-down economics to all of those existing businesses, which also makes the businesses grow and require more staff and thus more jobs available. All my friends that have families that are working, that have small businesses, they're the ones that are being forced to move out of here. They don't want to be forced to move out. They like it here. They just want some growth so that they can survive. So council, I implore you, please don't let the people's fear drive your decision. Use facts and resolutions that have already been planned out, using the research and the results of the testing that has been shown. There are many folks that I'm personal friends with who voted for you that support and trust that you will do what's best for the town. They are the working class and the small local business owners with families who want the project and support it, but due to those obligations cannot attend these meetings. I feel that most people who are opposed to this have all brought up points that have already been discussed, addressed, resolved by the research, testing, and with positive results showing as a smart project. Just because a person is opposed doesn't make them correct. Most of the opposition I heard today hasn't given any real facts or results of testing. It's just opinion. And it's just being driven by unsubstantiated fears and based on lack of knowledge, since none of them are the professionals in this field. They can choose to ignore the results, as they seem to be, and that's sad. The town needs some growth in order to keep it from becoming a ghost town, and right now, families are leaving.
Good evening, Mayor. Good evening, Mayor and Council and everyone. Thank you for listening to me for just a moment. I'm not with Lark. I just have a few words to say about ICASA. Our seniors need a place to live. The Age in Place is a fantastic concept, and I repeatedly see claims of people waiting years, getting on waiting lists for years to get to different levels of care. Summerland needs jobs. Summerland needs housing. And as seniors move into ICASA, a certain percentage of those will be locals, and will free up local housing for families and people of all ages. We need funds for infrastructure. We've all seen our roads. Solly Road should have been upgraded to include a sidewalk decades ago. I can remember as a teenager that being a ridiculously dangerous road with dog walkers and people dodging cars all over the place. I do have a couple other points. I think they've been talked to death, but I would like to say if we don't build it, where will our seniors and our future seniors live? Councillors, please vote in favor of this rezoning application and continue to hold all parties accountable as you have done so today. Thank you.
Everybody hear me? Dear Mayor, dear Council, my name is Art Jonkers from Faircrest Street, Summerland. Is it, yeah, sorry.
Is this better?
I have shared with you my concerns before regarding the aquifer, the soil and slope stability. Areas I know most about, with my 33 years of industry experience as a geoscientist. I'm actually a professional, by the way. A lot of experience. Allow me to again summarize these concerns briefly. The depth and the geometry of the aquifer are not known. We do know the aquifer is under pressure, producing some 2,800 liters a minute for the last 100 years. We also know that new springs emerge uncontrolled on the sloping ground in the general Shaughnessy Springs area. Furthermore, we know that the edge of the proposed complex to be built on top of this aquifer is only 40 meters away from the springs area. Very alarming indeed. I trust you all have seen the video, The Effect of Water on Soil Strength. The largely unconsolidated sediments sloping towards the lake can slide under the weight of the buildings because water pressure builds up in the sediments and forms a lubrication surface beneath these buildings. That is why the only way to keep these buildings securely in place is to use deep pilings. The developer will not use pilings. Why not? Well, pilings are expensive and they will puncture the aquifer. Large engineers looked at the valley from a shallow, one-dimensional perspective. Not wrong, but quite incomplete. No risk analysis was done. Shaughnessy Springs is the heart of the hatchery, and any disturbance of the aquifer can cause turbidity, change of flow, killing fish, and the $100 million they bring in every year. There have been, still are, many slumps and landslides along Lakeshore Drive demonstrating the largely unconsolidated nature of the same sediments. Last but not least, if anything goes wrong, there may be devastating consequences for our taxpayers, you and me. Given these concerns and many others, such as traffic, health, rezoning, agricultural land, I would like to leave you today with the following. I find it deeply disturbing to realize that for some of you, the dollar is the almighty driver in the decision process for this development. Indeed, I believe the only benefit we may get from this, if any, is tax dollars. I find it troubling that the excellent community plans we have, made by talented people, are in many ways contrary to the proposed development. We should be considering what we want our community to look like and feel like in the future, how our decisions impact the character of our town and the well-being of our residents and neighborhoods. It is a proven concept that nurturing your neighborhoods creates a stronger emotional attachment, which in turn creates a stronger economy and GDP growth. These considerations should be the dominant factors in our decision. We can all learn from Europe how they develop their small towns, also today, with a focus on living in and around the downtown core, people walking and cycling everywhere. Summerland is near the worst in urban sprawl of any town in British Columbia. And that is why, in my opinion, our businesses downtown are closing. There is no population density to go shopping. We need to build downtown. My wife and I came here 5 years ago to live our dream, to enjoy the small town atmosphere and feel of Summerland. If the development goes ahead, our dream and many others will be shattered. This development is in the wrong location, it is out of proportion, and it will open up the floodgates, setting precedent for anything goes in Summerland. Dear Mayor, dear Council, please make the right decision before it is too late, not after. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, I'm not a professional. I can't give you any criteria to judge on other than my years of experience, as you can tell. 15 years ago, when I moved here, I spoke with the former owner of that property, Mrs. Kirschman. She told me at that time that she had tried to do a residential development in that area, and it was rejected. Why was it rejected? Because of the the sensitivity of the environment in that area. All of a sudden, we're now saying, to hell with the environment. We can put high density in there where the former council said we couldn't even put housing in. I don't understand where that's coming from, or have I heard anything that states what the difference is in the environment of that area. I have to also say that I live in that area, adjacent to the property, and I have come home, again, this is an experience, I've come home after being away and found 2 spots in my yard that is fully landscaped that had eroded. So that soil can erode even though it's properly landscaped with slopes and drains and everything else. It's still eroded on me. And so has my neighbors, 2 of them, one of a retaining wall and the other where the house shifted, all within a stone's throw of that property. So yes, it can happen, and it has happened. And I guarantee, as much as everybody else in the professional world has given you guarantees, that it will happen. There wasn't one professional report that you got that would stand up with a liability insurance policy saying their report, they'll stand by it and stand by the liability of their report. Not one. So there's guesswork also. Mine isn't guesswork, mine has happened. And then other neighborhoods I've lived in, again, drawing on my experience, anytime there's a collector road or a thoroughfare, those communities did not allow front driveways. Why, you ask, or do you ask? Why? Because the inherent danger of all the people backing out of those driveways onto a busy roadway. Now, are we willing to put those people at risk? Why is Summerland willing to risk all their citizens on a thoroughfare? Projects like this are always built in areas close to main arteries. I look at Kelowna, where all their senior citizens are building. It's either the downtown core or next to Harvey, not in the middle of some residential development where playgrounds should be built, not multi high-rise developments. I could reiterate a lot of stuff that's been said about the fisheries and all that, but I'm sure you guys are sick of that. But I plead with the council to please consider your decisions as if the liability lied on your back. Be responsible for it as though you had to pay for it if it went wrong. Thank you.
Mark Siemens, 12305 Quint Cove Road. Nice intro with yours here. I'm going to talk about the hatchery. Hopefully you're not too sick about that particular issue. I'm a professional fish culturist. I worked at the Summerland Trout Hatchery for 23 years. I'm now retired. I was the manager for 17 years. To say that I'm intimate with the hatchery water supply is an understatement. The hatchery is all about water. It's the only reason the hatchery is there, or one of the major reasons. Shaughnessy Spring has provided a reliable, trouble-free source of disease-free water for thousands of years. But the first fish were actually introduced there in 1918 by George Gartrell, a very familiar local name, ironically 100 years ago. Hatcheries need groundwater to survive. They have to have a disease-free. They can't use surface water. If they use surface water, it's very, very expensive to treat surface water, so it is disease-free. The hatchery has looked at alternative water supplies over the last few decades since I've been there. They looked at the lake water, have found that the UV treatment is very expensive, virtually impractical from a financial point of view. So what they've done, they recirculate water, they add oxygen water, and make do with the beautiful water that there is. You might get the theme here that I'm going to be talking about water. The water chemistry of Shaughnessy Spring is absolutely ideal for trout. It has a perfect combination of magnesium and calcium. A little fun fact, at least we might learn one thing tonight. If trout get the right minerals from the water for bone development, they don't have to have it from their food. And that water does provide the perfect magic ingredients for bone development. All 5 provincial hatcheries are on groundwater. Okay, the hatchery's main concern with this massive construction proposal, first of all, it is massive, is well-founded. I have no financial attachment to the hatchery, I'm not employed by the hatchery. We've found over the years that even minor vibrations cause turbidity. A quick story, we were doing some work in the upper spring area of the hatchery. We needed a backhoe. And I'm down below being my manager, guy sitting at the desk and looking out the window at our water, and I noticed the water started to silt up, which is turbidity. And I said, hey, these guys aren't supposed to start till 10 o'clock. Well, they hadn't started. It was just the backhoe coming close to the water supply. From the vibration of a very small backhoe, started to silt up the water. One of the geotech engineers talked about water, natural turbidity in the water. We get really minor amounts of turbidity. They usually only last maybe just a few hours or a few days, but they're not sustained and they're not very severe. The fish can, and it's a natural thing, the little springs are breaking out of the silt and causing a little bit of silt out. Fish can handle it a few days, minor amounts. Can't handle long periods of time, can't handle massive amounts of turbidity. And I'm way off topic here now. So what happens when fish die, or there's a problem with the hatchery? It's kind of a good news, bad news thing. Really, really bad news for the hatchery manager, really bad news for the fish, but it's really good news for the media. The media loves fish kills. We had some really small fish kills of 100 fish, and we got phone calls all the way up to the Globe and Mail, covers very minor fish kills. Can you imagine what would happen if a hatchery is wiped out, or a fish barren creek is destroyed? Some more bad news in a way, that these fish are irreplaceable. They come from a wild stock, Panasse Creek. Panasse Creek stock, they're wild, their DNA is absolutely perfect for stock in lakes, 300 lakes in the province that it stocks. The province thought that the Panasse Creek was so important, they created a provincial park adjacent to the creek itself. It was such a provincial priority. It's an unknown, but it is a provincial park if you look on your maps. So what I hope, and I hope the hope of the 320,000 anglers in this province, they hope that Summerland can at the very least, protect the water supply of the trout hatchery. Thank you.
Mayor, Council, thank you for this opportunity to speak my opinion. As a professional, I'm a paramedic, and I've had the privilege of living under the radar here, like so many others, for over half my lifetime. I also teach paramedicine in remote parts of the country, like Hartley Bay and the end of the Tippett-Pentoida Winter Road and Mead Cove and places like that. And there's no place like home.
We have a place here that is second to none. Could it be even marketed as the Desert Hot Springs of Canada? We know that. We look outside and we see weather and go, oh, that weather. It's the best weather in Canada. And we go, oh. Is this a good idea? It's an excellent idea. Absolutely excellent in so many ways. If Summerland was developed as a seniors care destination, it would be perfect in many ways because our community is already off the highway. We have a condensed downtown area. It's already so level and accessible for many, many people. Are the jobs good jobs? Yes, they are, as long as they meet certain criteria. Permanent only? Nah. Maybe permanent full-time, but permanent part-time, no. I actually looked up this company and the wage it pays, it averages $20 an hour. 20 hours a week at $20 an hour, you're not gonna live here when you get old. I'm not gonna live here when I get old, I betcha. When you figure, I was here all day today, my partner in uniform asked how many assisted living spaces there are. He was told 100. He asked how many care beds there are going to be. He was told 30, and that was the end of the conversation. It was almost spoken under his breath by the answerer. 30 care beds, 4 beds per room, that's 8 suites. That's 108 of these suites for seniors. Could this be a 3 dressed up as a 9? I don't know. When you look at a lot of this stuff, 108 suites, that's not 75 to 100 full-time jobs or permanent jobs. The math, I'm not a mathematician, but somebody's making money here and it ain't us. My kids grew up here. This is the only home I've ever known. My kids can't afford to buy. They can hardly find a place to rent, and they're educated folks. If we develop Summerland for a seniors destination, I think we could really do a benefit to our community for the future. It has so many things going for it, including the fact that we care about this community and we care about seniors. Is it the right location? Absolutely not. Absolutely nothing should threaten the fish hatchery or its water source, and they are separate entities. We could sell that water. It'd be worth a lot of money. That's wonderfully delicious water. If you've never tasted it, get it at the front end of that. Fish poop in it. But it's sure tasty. And it would be almost arrogant to say that any problems that disrupt that water in any way are fixable with money. Traffic issues, they talk about sidewalks and yeah, but we know that intersection and how dangerous it is and how many accidents there are there because the intersection is on a hill. And what do truckers have to do when they reach it from coming down or up? They curse. They hate that lights right there. How many of our community have been hurt in that intersection from accidents? Also, when people come out of this site, there's been no talk of developing the roadway going downhill. I am so sorry. Did I say who I am? I'm Michelle Tennisco, and I live at 12212 Lakeshore Drive South. And I'm talking about when people come out of there going downhill, they're not going to go back uphill to Summerland. They're going to go to Penticton. We know that. So there's a lot of talk about this not-for-profit. Well, the money's going to come from somewhere. I would suggest it's these, what would it be, almost 300 suites that are sold at market value? Again, money we're not going to earn, and I can't afford it. So, is this a good idea? Yes, with a lot of tweaks that make it actually meet the needs of our communities and the people we would like to bring into our communities to actually call this home. Is it the wrong location? It certainly is. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Kathleen Gibbs. I reside at 834 Ricker Road, Cawston. I'm the fisheries chairperson of the Crescent Sportsmen's Association and also a member of the BC Wildlife Federation. I am here tonight to present a statement on behalf of the KCSA. It was composed by the Fisheries Committee and unanimously accepted by the KCSA, which represents approximately 250 individuals from the South Okanagan-Similkameen. The Crescent Sportsmen's Association joins like-minded clubs, associations, businesses, and individuals in opposition to the proposed Banks Crescent housing development. The KCSA believes the development, as currently conceived, will potentially threaten the quality of water available to the Summerland trout hatchery. It therefore jeopardized the continued operation of the hatchery and the future of the substantial recreational fishery it supports. Our organization urges all parties to consider the broad and significant impacts that potential harm to the hatchery would have on fisheries conservation, recreational angling, and related social and economic activities throughout the Okanagan-Similkameen. This region offers some of the best fishing in BC, the result of adhering over decades to the principle that fish come first when resource and development decisions are at stake. While the preservation of wild stock is top priority, hatchery-raised fish have long been essential to sustain most recreational fisheries in the area. Over almost a century of operation, the Summerland Trout Hatchery has created the opportunity and expectation of great days on the water for thousands of resident anglers and thousands more who visit from outside the province. But concerns about risk to social, cultural, and economic benefits that derive from the Summerland Trout Hatchery are not exclusive to anglers and should be shared by everyone. Quality recreational fishing in the Okanagan-Similkameen ought to remain an integral part of our lifestyle and our culture.
Mr. Mayor, Council, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for giving Lark Group the opportunity to voice what we thought would be nice for your community. We recognize the beauty, we see what you have to offer, and we want to come here to be part of the community to make a place for seniors. And we've brought St. Elizabeth's because they offer such a new perspective to the care side. They do home care. They have 9,000 employees. They've been around for 110 years. So when we talk about having 100 and some beds, we believe that the beds, the condos, as people age there, that St. Elizabeth, that will give care, they have nurse practitioners, they will be able to deliver care, deliver food to whatever the people want in those condos. So there will be a very long time that those people can stay there. And St. Elizabeth have schools, they train people, we'll be hiring local people. They will contribute to the community, and that's what Lark likes to do. We come in, we be part of the community, and care is always, we've been developing, we're 45 years old, we've been developing a long time, we've attended a lot of these meetings, and we see both sides. I mean, people have real fears, real concerns, and we try to articulate a way through that. We have our consultants, we have our people well-trained, they're respectful of the environment, and we work very hard to make the place, to make what we build and what we offer something that is added to the community and a real asset. We have a history of doing hospitals. We have facilities, office buildings where we have 90, our phase one, right across from the Surrey Hospital, we have 90 specialists. So we're into looking after people. Care is important to us. Health is important to us. And certainly fish. We love to fish, and we see what you have here. and contributing $100 million is the numbers that I've heard many times. That is awesome. That is unbelievable. So we're not here to try and do any harm to that. We want to enhance wherever we can. Our consultants tell us 75 to 100 feet, and the vibration, our construction will go where we're doing our footings. It'll be for a period of about 4 months, not consecutively, but a period of about 4 months where there'll be vibration. We've got wells where they're observing, and our guys are intent on doing it right. They don't just go half-cocked. They will make sure that they supervise those test observant wells, and any turbidity, the construction will stop immediately. So we believe we have a way to be compatible in the community, provide care for seniors, provide places for seniors to live, add income to the community, add tax base to the community, add development cost charges. We want to be a good citizen. Everywhere we go, we contribute back to the community. Thank you.
Excuse me, sir. We didn't get your name and where you are.
Larry Fisher, 7532 Wiltshire Drive in Surrey.
Mr. Mayor and Council, fellow supporters and non-supporters. My name's Orr Dawson, and I'm at 678 McDonald Place. First, I want to say that I am an MD, much the same as Councillor Barkwell, who so strongly opposed making the motion defeating the regional district's food waste plant in Prairie Valley Road last fall. We were transferred to Summerland in 1992, a location we wanted to come. My oldest daughter, Nicole, was going into grade 11. Shortly after we got here, my daughter stated, "Dad, can we call this place home?" We were building our home on the corner of McDonald Place and Sully Road, and we're still here. It was a quiet neighborhood. There was red zone in front of us, overlooking a quiet vineyard. The zoning was low to medium density. And the official community plan, if it was in effect, it played little effect to our needs in 1992. Low density housing was all around. We knew we had the dream location. Now they want to put 1/13 of the population of Summerland in that pristine gully. 1996 was the first that I became involved with the OCP. It has been an ongoing living document in Summerland's growth, recently updated in 2015. It has 3 points of interest to the present state. Number 1, a clear vision for Summerland's future growth with supporting goals, objectives, and policy. Number 2, a direction aligned with current community values and development patterns. And number 3, the anticipation of infrastructure, capacity, and future needs. What has been lost in the values? You gave that in 2015. Many hours of community time and thought were put into this document. It tells you where you are, it tells you where you are going and what the community wants. A developer comes along, makes a proposal, and 7 people are left to make the decision for the community. I suggest to you, this is not a development that the community wants or needs. The tax dollars you are looking at in the neighborhood of $400,000 that this development will generate, you're looking at a minimum of 3 employees to hire on in the district, over and above what you have already hired. Leasing will require another member. There goes your $400,000. The mayor was right when he reported the last election. For every dollar you bring in taxes, it costs you $1.20. It will cost you a lot more. What about the collector road that is going to go from Solly to Lakeshore? Who is paying for that? Not the developer, the taxpayer. Will it be $2 million plus? if they can build it in some places. These are just some of the costs that the taxpayer will be responsible for. This is not a paying proposition. Only the out-of-town Surrey developer will make money on this mega project. Once he is done and gone, we have the aftermath. In conclusion, I ask you, how can you vote for this in fair conscience? With all the negative aspects on the table, I implore you to vote no. Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. My name is Malik Tawashi, and I reside at 6621 Lambert Crescent, Delta, BC. I would like to piggyback off of the comments we heard from Laura on the OCP. The OCP, as stated in the document produced a few years ago, was a vision that gives direction developed by the Lower Town Community Working Group. This Lower Town Community Working Group gave actions, and they spoke, and they said, explore the opportunities for residential development on Shaughnessy Springs properties that encourage increased residential densities. New developments must address the need for seniors housing. Following that, they gave actions to council. Designate Shaughnessy Springs a development area for multifamily development. The timeline was within 2 years, and there were certain responsibilities that were decided. The district council would have responsibility, landowners would have responsibility, and developers would have responsibility. I think this project is the culmination of the district, the landowners, as we've heard, and the developers coming together to make the Lower Town strategic plan a reality. With regards to turbidity, we have certainly heard a number of concerns here today. I had the opportunity to meet with Kyle back in January 4th of 2017. Kyle attended the meeting excited to be part of the collaborative process that this project was starting to take. Following that, we and our engineers self-identified that vibration-induced turbidity may be a risk. This identification enabled us to get to work on this risk so that we could have it managed. We started doing monitoring. We have had monitoring in place on the site for over 3 months. We determined, based on the type of machinery we were going to use, that the aquifer below the construction site was not a risk in our aquifer protection strategy plan. This document was reviewed by Golder and Associates as hired by the district, and Golder confirmed the same. That leaves us with sloughing and vibration-induced sloughing. We heard just this evening from Mark that the freshwater fisheries does experience turbidity. In fact, they can experience turbidity for over several days. So we know turbidity is not an issue. It's not to be, it can be overcome. What we can't prevent is the turbidity that freshwater fisheries already experiences. What we can manage is the turbidity if produced by construction vibrations. With the help of monitoring wells and vibration monitoring, should there be any increase in turbidity, which has been identified as low by not only our engineers, but the Golder District's engineers, we have the ability to stop construction immediately and use alternative methods such that vibration-induced turbidity will no longer occur. On economics, I have certainly heard today that there's a lot of speculative risks as presented, with no guarantees from those presenting these speculative risks that they will participate in returning Summerland to economic prosperity. The guarantees this project provides are jobs, tax revenues, infrastructure, and innovation. When we look at the OCP that was developed by the people of Summerland and Lower Town, when we look at the way that the fish hatchery has been protected and managed, and when we look at the economic benefits from this project, we must ask, if not now, then when? And if not the Lark Group and St. Elizabeth, then who? Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Council, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Diane Embry. I live at 6510 McDonald Place. I'm opposed to changing the zoning and OCP at Banks Crescent. The OCP was written by thoughtful members of our community as a guide for the future development that would enhance Summerland's social character and sense of place. In fact, this proposed development threatens the character of Lower Town. It threatens the future of a 100-year hatchery. It threatens the coffers of the Corporation of Summerland, who will be left defending itself against lawsuits. It is not an amendment the developer asks for, but a complete rewrite of the OCP. Further, I believe that the developer has tried to generate support for their project by misleading the public and preying on the fears of seniors. I make that statement based on a document from citizens supporting ICASA called "The Reasons Why I Support ICASA." They believe that banks